Ooh, James Bond is one big franchise. I know because I sat and watched all of the films in about 10 days before No Time to Die came out. But one thing they've never done is expand outwards. They have never made a James Bond film that doesn't star James Bond. Now, why is that? After all, we've had 25 official films and 2 unofficial ones starring 007, and there are no shortage of other characters introduced that could have been spun off from the main franchise. From sultry femme fatales to world-conquering villains and everything in between. There's been recurring characters like Felix Leiter of the CIA, there's M and Q and Miss Moneypenny. From Bill Tanner to the deadly assassin Jaws, and even Ernst Stavro Blofeld himself. There have been countless recurring characters across the last 6 decades of Bond films that could have led to other opportunities for the franchise, but it never materialized. There have been countless films that parody the series for sure, from the obvious like Austin Powers to the slightly less so like XXX, and from the hilarious like Johnny English to the utter crap like Johnny English Reborn, and all the way from the Indian-made musical Mr. Bond. Wait, what? Point is, there are a lot of films like James Bond, but there's nothing set in the official timeline, of which there are about 5. That doesn't star the character. And frankly, with the release of No Time to Die, there's never been a better time to think about branching out. By the way, there are No Time to Die spoilers ahead, but obviously, if you haven't seen it, I mean, probably already had it spoiled for you, frankly, but you've been warned. So Bond is dead. And you can't kill James Bond. But here's the thing. A, it doesn't matter. B, I like the decision. It doesn't matter because, I mean, the timelines for different Bonds almost never make sense anyway. Not anymore. They kept it going with some level of reference to previous major moments in his life for a shockingly long time, to the degree that they referenced Lazenby's marriage to Diana Rigg in On Her Majesty's Secret Service in Timothy Dalton's License to Kill, a full 20 years later. But Daniel Craig's Bond has been very much his own franchise, haunted only by his past love with Vesper Lynd from his own films. Now that's over. This Bond is dead. And there's never been a better chance to say, okay, we're probably going to have the longest, well, almost the longest break in franchise history. Why not just take this opportunity before we cast a new young Bond and he starts his own journey, does his own franchise, probably completely separate from everything we've seen before, to do a spin-off, to get somebody else from this world, this really well-cast, interesting, darker world, and do something with them in that world, in the Craig Bond world. And it isn't just as easy as saying, let's go make a spin-off. After all, they've tried it before. When Pierce Brosnan took over as Bond, he retained the suave, womanizing core of the character, but as one journalist put it at the time, the Bond girls graduated to Bond women and felt more like partners than the traditional eye candy of previous entries. It started with Michelle Yeoh, who starred in Tomorrow Never Dies alongside Brosnan's Bond as Chinese agent Wai Lin. And while their adventure trying to stop a media mogul from starting a world war was one of the campier, sillier, if you ask me, lesser entries in the Bond franchise overall, the producers did explore a Wai Lin spin-off starring Yeoh at the time. They thought with her popularity in the role and her international market appeal, maybe it could work out. It never quite came together, and then because of scheduling conflicts, she wasn't even able to return for Die Another Day. But Brosnan's last outing as 007 did provide another opportunity for a female of colour to bring a spin-off to the franchise in the form of Jinx Johnson. Halle Berry's character managed to star in an even worse Bond film than Tomorrow Never Dies. Die Another Day remains pretty well reviled by the majority of Bond fans, but despite that, after sending Brosnan off on his merry way, there was a hefty effort to produce a spin-off starring Berry's NSA agent in the leading role. But despite the success of other female-led action films around that time, like Charlie's Angels, Resident Evil, Lara Croft Tomb Raider, Kill Bill, the producers decided they didn't want to greenlight an $80 million budget to make this film, and it fell apart. $80 million was, by the way, significantly less than the budget of Die Another Day. Leading us to today, where once again MGM have the opportunity to take a female character from the final film in a Bond actor's franchise and spin her off before casting a new Bond. And the real question isn't, should they do it? It's, which one should they do it for? The obvious answer is, of course, Lashana Lynch's Nomi, also known as 007. In a world without James Bond, she'd be the natural successor in either film or TV format and showed capability as an enjoyable character in her brief tenure working alongside Bond, who she did return the 007 mantle to over the course of the film. I guess she'll just get it back, probably now that he's dead. It would, for all intents and purposes, essentially just be a female James Bond film. And that's why I desperately don't want it to happen. Don't do that. Don't do a female James Bond. Do something better than that. Aim higher than that. Aim beyond the desperate unoriginality of just saying, what if it was a woman now? No. That's not what we want. We want something with a different tone, a different vibe, set in the same world that feels original and powerful. A Lashana Lynch-led Bond universe film could easily make some departures from the feel of the franchise, but it would be an effort to do so. Every time they either make a reference or try to avoid making a reference to Bond and the style in which Bond handles things would naturally make her a less likable lead in her own right. It would be an uphill struggle from the start to make the character and the film something separate from Bond that we would be interested in seeing more of. Is it impossible? Absolutely not. Lashana Lynch provided us with a strong performance as an interesting new character, and I want to see more of her. She had the advantage of appearing in a better, if you ask me, Bond film than either Michelle Yeoh or Halle Berry got. The problem is that this was a packed film. Really jam-packed. And Nomi as a character felt overshadowed in this by more than just James Bond. So who else could they make a spin-off film about? Well, there is kind of a more direct link from James Bond to a female character in this film than Nomi. How about his daughter? The name's Bond. Mathilde Bond. Oh. Mathilde Swan? Mathilde Bond Swan. Bond Swan. No, that's not going to work. Now, there are a fair few obstacles towards making a spin-off with Mathilde Bond as the leading character. She's 5, so there's that. Yeah, an aging up process that would need some either unfavorable makeup on Lea Seydoux or an explanation regarding her absence. It would also need to deal with, well, everything else. What would the actual plot be? About Mathilde following in the footsteps of her father and joining the British Secret Service? Sounds like it would deal with similar problems to a Nomi spin-off. How does it handle changing the tone of the film to avoid being compared too directly to being a female Bond movie? Which it would literally be in this case. It's got obstacles to it. It advances the timeline at least 15, maybe 20 years, and you'd be casting a new face to replace Lisa Dora Sonnet as Mathilde, which would make it feel like less of a direct spin-off to No Time to Die. This isn't necessarily a problem, but it would just work better, probably, if you had a known quantity from No Time to Die, a known face, like Madeleine Swan herself, as the lead in the film. And why not? You could do that. You could have somebody from Bond's past coming back after his family, finding out he's got a daughter, and then maybe Madeleine is helped by Nomi and some of the other known quantities from the Bond films, keeping her daughter safe, etc. That sounds like an interesting maternally driven film which would be able to include characters like Nomi and doesn't have to be all about them. Problem is, even in that situation, that's essentially what No Time to Die was. It was just them protecting the kid, mostly, yeah. But as we talk about the other options, it becomes ever clearer to me what my favourite one is for a Bond spin-off film. Of all the sexy, dangerous, useless, annoying, violently dumb, genius-level female characters that have varied in popularity and infamy down these many years of Bond films, there's never, in my humble opinion, been such spin-off potential in one as Paloma. How? In such a packed film, 2 hours, 40 minutes, kills off Bond, gives him a family, gets rid of Felix Leiter as well. How was my favourite thing in it Ana de Armas as Paloma, as this inexperienced CIA agent, realistically only there for 10 minutes of quick eye candy to say, oh look, we've got sexy ladies in the trailer, oh yeah, we've got plenty of them. Why? I was astounded she didn't turn up again later in the film. That was just it. Her first mission, she was nervous, she was quirky, she was bubbly, she was sexy, she's still in her early 30s and could easily do a long-running TV show or like a trilogy of spin-off films as this hilarious, fun, almost Marvel superhero feeling-esque agent in the Bond world. You're worried about the tone being too similar to a Bond film? Don't worry, this inexperienced agent with the level of fun personality brought to the character by Anna is sure to provide a film that feels half like a Bond movie and half like a Bond parody, making it easy to shake and maybe stir the formula of the franchise up with something that feels entirely original. You're worried about somebody like Lashana Lynch leading a big, massive budget Hollywood film without really having done that sort of thing before? Uh-oh. Don't worry, Ana de Armas has already starred as the lead in Knives Out, a hugely successful film, and has other big-budget box office experience in things like Blade Runner 2049 and Knock Knock. Ana de Armas is the right woman, whose character has the right tonal possibilities going forwards to spin off this franchise in a completely new direction, and she's arrived at the perfect time with this perfect breakout dark horse character to say, yeah, actually, that's a great, fantastic idea. The only problem for me with this is that Felix Leiter, who sent her to see Bond and help him out in Cuba, is dead. And he would have been the perfect character to kind of link back to the actual main franchise, having him around as like a handler for her or something like that. So that is upsetting. But honestly, you can go on the meaniness level of her working a case alongside someone like Nomi, being lent to the British Secret Service, working something that's set in London or in Europe. And it's not going to be an issue. It's going to be great. You have other characters from the Bond franchise to chuck into the trailer. You have Ana de Armas, who has big box office earning potential, is still early 30s, and is the perfect blend, this character, of bubbly, quirky, hugely competent, everything you really want. She had an incredible, flashy, awesome introduction. It was the best part of the film, frankly. In a huge, amazing film with so many powerful themes behind it, this quirky, random, bubbly girl was the best thing that happened to it. It's incredible. And I still can't quite believe it. It may not happen. After all, these female projects have fallen apart before, and it would be a risk no matter who's starring in it for the studio to suddenly say, let's do Bond without Bond. But I would be incredibly shocked to see them go after a Mathilde Bond or even Nomi spin-off before they go for something with the name brand value, the proven box office success, the easy, fun, different tone of a Paloma spin-off. It would quite simply be some movie magic. And then again, maybe they'll just cast a new Bond like next week. Like, who knows? Like, it could just come out very suddenly. What they said at the end of the credits of No Time to Die, Bond will return, so we know he's coming back. Yeah. Who do you think should be cast as Bond? Let me know in the comments. Like the video, subscribe.